Welcome to another edition of Community Matters. I'm Jim Cameron, your host and the program director here at Darien TV 79. And you, as our faithful viewers, know that Community Matters is a show where we interview folks in the Darien area who are involved with nonprofits and non-government organizations, such as our guest this morning, Denise Durham-Williams, who is the CEO of Inspirica. Welcome to Community Matters.
Thank you, Jim. My pleasure to be here today.
Great to have you here. Let's start with a really basic question, and that is, what is Inspirica?
Well, Inspirica is one of the oldest non-for-profits, at least in Stanford. We were founded in 1879, and we're one of the largest providers of housing and support services to those who are homeless or those who are at risk of homelessness, not only in Lower Fairfield County, but in the state of Connecticut. Our mission is really simple. We strive to end homelessness and housing insecurity by helping individuals and families achieve stability through support services and affordable housing.
Inspirica is so much more than just a shelter. We want to get our clients from homeless to home. That means that we don't just take care of housing, we take care of all the reasons that someone becomes homeless in the first place so that they can live independently. We offer a full spectrum of housing run by staff who care deeply about the work they do. A warming center for severe cold weather. An emergency shelter for single women. A shelter for families. Transitional housing. Permanent supportive housing for clients with special needs. And deeply affordable housing. We serve the full homeless population so that no one is left behind. We care for individuals managing mental health or substance abuse issues. We also care for single men, single women, seniors, and families. We make sure everyone we serve has the tools they need to succeed. Community volunteers provide meals that give a sense of home. We run an early childhood and parenting program for children and their families. And an after-school youth center, which lets our kids be kids. For adults, we provide a Jumpstart career program and vocational programs like home health aide and certified nursing assistant training, which helps our clients prepare for the jobs that will keep them housed. And finally, our staff offer case management and other support, helping our clients through their toughest challenges and celebrating their every success. Our mission is to break the cycle of homelessness by helping people achieve and maintain permanent housing and stability in their lives. We hope you'll join us.
We have a vision. Our vision, we just aim to have a community where everyone has a stable, affordable home and a hope for a bright future. We operate.
Now, you said you've been around since 1879.
Yes, it was.
Has this been an issue that long?
Well, you know, we were St. Luke's Works. So I think everybody perhaps knows about St. Luke's, and originally it was started. We're not religious-based, we're not religiously affiliated, but it was originally started to help immigrants coming to the United States and settling into the community and providing those services that they need, employment, food, shelter, all those services that they may need to actually integrate into the community and be a contributing citizen.
Are you still working with immigrants?
We do. You know, we do with respect to those who come into our shelters. We have 2 shelters, one for women and one for families. We are the largest shelter provider for both women and families, one of the largest in the state of Connecticut, and definitely one of the largest in Lower Fairfield County. So from time to time, we will see immigrants come through our shelters.
There are also other agencies like IRIS that are specifically helping Afghans, and I would imagine soon some Ukrainians as well too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, you mentioned on your website that the cost of housing in the Stamford and Norwalk area is the fifth highest in the nation. That the typical two-bedroom apartment in Stamford costs about $2,500 a month, and
Exactly right.
to be able to afford that, people would have to be earning about $100,000 a year.
Well,
why is housing so expensive in this part of the state and the country?
Well, in Fairfield County alone, we have one of the highest prices of housing probably in the country. Part of it is the Fortune 100s that we have in Stamford. Part of it is captains of industries that live in neighboring towns. But I also think it's just sort of, and this is just a phenomenon around the country, it's just the lack of focus for those who are in true need of affordable housing. Although there are complexes that are built and there are earmarked for affordable housing, it typically tends to be those who earn a certain amount, and it's pegged to being 50% of area median income. There's virtually minimum inventory that addresses the 25 to 30% area median income, which tends to be those individuals and families that we serve. To give you a perspective, I mean, you mentioned 100,000, but to just give it a perspective, if you have a family looking for a two-bedroom, you have to earn $46.46, okay? And
an hour.
An hour. And the reason why I break it up in terms of an hourly wage is because our clientele, those we serve, are really our hourly wage workers. They are your essential workers out there. And, you know, we strive to work with each person who comes into our facilities, and we have 12 of them. I'm here in Stamford, 12 buildings. We try to strive for any any individuals or families we work with to really earn beyond even $15 an hour. So you can see the stretch between 15 and 46. That's a huge stretch. So the affordability of housing becomes minimum, where we have to now move people up the what I call the Metro North line to Bridgeport, where housing is a little bit more affordable. But it's a travesty if you grew up in Stamford or you grew up in Lower Fairfield County and your kids are in school and now you have to move further up north to afford housing. It means that everybody has to sort of reacclimate, right? And that's not easy.
Your website also says something like 30% of the people who come to Inspirica have jobs. So these are not chronically unemployed people, but they're working in jobs. I don't want to pick on McDonald's or, you know, Walmart or something, but, you know, they have jobs, but they're certainly not earning enough to be able to pay the rents as they are around here. And there's not enough supply either of
there's
affordable
not enough
housing
supply
rent
whatsoever. And that's where we're at a point in time where we can appeal to the governor and to the state legislators to really support the production of true affordable housing in partnerships with not-for-profits like Inspirica. We at Inspirica, about 2 years ago, opened a very unique building. It's called Franklin Apartments. It's 52 apartments that can house 125 people. And it was really designed to support the workforce here in Stamford.
If you really want to make a difference, putting money toward affordable housing is one of the great philanthropic things to do.
Today, we are cutting a ribbon and birthing a building truly designed to address the housing needs of low-income individuals and families.
This building is not a homeless shelter. We do not want our future tenants to have to bear the burden of living in a shelter ever again. This building is a home.
When we heard about 72 Franklin, we were really excited as case managers. The goal is to end this cycle of homelessness, and this is one stepping stone towards it.
Affordable housing, it's okay, affordable to who? And how much are they really making? And when we're talking about deeply affordable, we're talking about based on your income. We're talking about really, what can you financially afford?
We have a terrible misdistribution of wealth in this country, and it's hollowing out the middle class, and it's certainly affecting people below the middle class.
This is how we move forward. You don't want to create a cycle. Rent is astronomically high in Stamford and in Connecticut.
Unfortunately, the cost of living here is just so expensive, and it really just makes it easy for people that are working and maybe just not bringing home as much as other individuals in this area.
The cost of housing here is multiples more than it is in many other parts of the country, and that's not true of the incomes.
Living check to check is not something anyone wants to do. Everyone goes through struggles. I always tell my clients, there's no such thing as a problem. There's only solutions. And we're the ones that can solve them.
Stamford's a great city. We have lots of different ethnicities. We have people of many different kinds of income. And if you're a lower income person and you find yourself in Stamford, there are a lot of people with resources who are here and want to help.
There's going to be individuals who utilize this as a stepping stone. It's a place where they can now save because of what they're paying in rent.
They are able to release that breath of fresh air and say, hey, this is mine.
And so we have studios, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, knowing that families were in need. And it's really designed without any government subsidies. It really is designed to give those who are essential workers, right? You just mentioned a number of them, the opportunity to have really nice, affordable, it's a beautiful complex, nice, affordable housing, and give them an opportunity to get themselves stable and save money, and then, you know, eventually move on and move out. But we're really proud of that building, and it's one of its kind because, again, it does not require any form of vouchers or subsidies, but just support those who are hardworking workers here in Stamford.
How long do your clients stay in your housing before they're able to find another place or, you know, as you say, move up?
So, Jim, that's a great question because we have 3 types of housing. That's what makes us so unique. We have what we call emergency housing or transitional housing. And for general purposes, that's our shelters. That's our shelters for women and for families. Currently, we are at full capacity at both. And the typical stay we like when all conditions are normal, I would say pre-COVID. During COVID, we're much more challenged. You're with us for about at least emergency for 3 months. Now it's extended longer, only because finding housing is becoming more challenging, as well as, you know, just caring for those during this pandemic has been an increasingly challenging opportunity or job for us. So at the end of the day, that's taking a little longer. In our deeply affordable housing, that tends to be more permanent housing. So 72 Franklin is real apartments. You have a lease, you're paying rent, et cetera. But it's you know, the rents are pegged in our deeply affordable housing portfolio to what you can afford, or in some cases, not 72 Franklin, but we have buildings where there is some subsidies that are provided. And then we have permanent supportive housing, which is housing for those who have challenges. We have one house where we care for those who have HIV or AIDS, some that are recovering from alcoholism or drug addiction. We also have housing that helps support those who can live independently but still need case management support. So there, you can be there for years. Our goal is to provide all the support services you need: employment, case management, guidance, and connections to mental health, behavioral health, physical health providers that will enable you to fully stabilize and find stability. And then we would work with you on finding the next level of housing that makes sense for your particular situation.
Denise Durham Williams is the CEO of Inspirica. She's our guest today on Community Matters. Tell me a little bit about the demographics of your clients. Are they young? Are they old? Are they of color? Talk to us a little bit about that.
The demographics across the board. In our family housing, in our emergency shelter, transitional shelter for families, they run the range. We have some young ladies here who just gave birth to children. So we have newborns here, to having, moms. And we're the only shelter, by the way, I just want to point this out. We're the only shelter, by the way, family shelter that will take a whole family unit. So if there is a father and a mother or guardians that are male and female with their children, we will accommodate you here at Inspirica. But it's a wide range. And I'm seeing from 22-year-olds, and they're about to have birth of their little one, to older families with teenage kids, or kids that still are about to age out, past 21, 22. We have the whole range. When we look at our permanent supportive housing, those age ranges are also a wide variety. We're seeing probably in our women's shelter more older women, or what we would say, I would say older. I'm older, mature women, or women in middle age. And for a variety of reasons, maybe they've lost employment, found themselves homeless, maybe they were living with family members moved away. There's a number of reasons as to why you would have the need to enter shelter. But and demographically, in terms of ethnicity, we're all inclusive, equitable, and diverse. We have all levels of ethnicity, religious backgrounds. It looks like the population of Stanford, to be honest with you.
How did these people become homeless? What happened?
Homeless is a complicated issue. Some of it's economics, not having enough funds or money to support your housing needs. Some of it is maybe they were living with families for a while, which we call sort of doubling up. And at some point, families said, you know what, it's time for you to find your own home. So they will go there. Some are transient. We're seeing many families or individuals coming out of New York City or elsewhere. We've a little bit of a rise of even people coming from different states, because we have a right to shelter state here in the state of Connecticut that we can't turn you away. And so if you
talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, why would somebody move to one of the most expensive places to live in the country? Is it because Connecticut, as you say, has a right to shelter law? What does that mean?
Well, I think it's because we do a great job here in ensuring that people find housing. There is funds to help people with rapid rehousing, help you bridge that gap if you are you think you're going to be or at risk of homelessness, and you need just sort of a transitional period of time and funds to help you bridge. We have that. We have homeless prevention services here. We try to keep people out of shelters. If you were a resident here and paying rent, you got behind on rent for economic reasons during COVID, there was Unite CT that really, really helped a lot of people avoid becoming homeless. So I think there's just the whole system of what works here in Stanford, not Stanford, but all of Connecticut. And then we have an incredibly strong network of providers, individual organizations like Inspirica that come together and help solve the problems of homelessness.
You mentioned the impact of COVID, and I think one of the things that people don't understand is that the rent moratorium has expired.
It has.
And people who were unable to pay their rent but were able to then still stay in their apartment or their home have lost that right. And are we seeing people literally being evicted at this point by landlords?
I cannot speak to that. I don't know what's going on. That I think you would have to go to an organization that is more focused on eviction or legal rights of tenants. So I don't.
But do you have clients that come to you who present themselves and say, I lost my house, I've been evicted"?
Right now, we seem to have a rise in clients who, again, may have been living with family members, and everybody was taking care of each other during COVID, but now the opportunity to perhaps find housing is at the right period of time. And so we are seeing more of that, especially with our families. We also are seeing a larger percentage of large families. So it's just not the mom and the daughter or the son, but we're seeing where the mom's coming and she has 4 kids, 5 kids. And we're one of very few shelters that can accommodate large families. So I think part of it's that. And then we're also seeing people, or at least women, coming to the shelters that have been economically impacted. So even though our website says 30% are coming to the shelters with jobs, when you think about it, that's still a pretty small percentage. When we're right now, everybody's fighting for talent, right? We can't find enough workers in the workplace. So we have that. And then also, just as what's going on now, and what we're seeing more and more of our shelter guests with multiple challenges, both physical, some with some challenges related to mental health and wellness, and where they're going to go. And so at least you have a safe haven when you do come to any of the shelters in Connecticut.
You say that you don't work with single men, that Pacific House does that kind of sheltering.
Yeah. So
right.
Jim, let me do some clarity on that. Because I've got these different buckets of housing, I do not provide temporary shelter, meaning the shelters for men, that specific house. In my other pockets of housing, permanent supportive housing, as well as my deeply affordable housing portfolio, they're definitely men.
Right. But are there people living on the streets?
No.
In Fairfield County?
Should not be. There should
right.
not be. There should not
What
be.
about at the train station? I mean, I hear a number of people saying there are a lot of homeless people at the Stamford train station, for example.
Nope. Should not be. We really make a strong effort collectively in outreach and to provide as much space as possible. Now, with that said, are we all at full capacity? Are we all at the top end of providing the services? Absolutely. But we have made a real conscious effort, especially during this period of time in the winter, to ensure anyone who needs shelter, you do have to go through the process of calling 211. That is the number that you do dial in order to get placed in a shelter throughout Fairfield County or throughout the state of Connecticut. But we've all made a conscious effort and commitment to ensure there are no individuals, and definitely no families that are without shelter. Now, with that said, if we do have someone on the street and significant effort is made to bring them into a shelter and they deny it, we can't force people to come into shelter. My life has been fortunate enough that even if I grew up in Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn many, many, many decades ago, and there was no such thing as homelessness. People took care of each other as a community.
Mm-hmm.
So individuals who didn't refuse shelter, some of it is they don't feel comfortable. Some people don't do well in congregate kind of settings. Not all shelters are congregate. Let me make that clarity. You know, we at Inspirica have for our family suites, and due to COVID restrictions, many of our shelters had to what we call decompress. So we're at lower levels in terms of who we can accommodate, just so that we can make sure that we have the right safety protocols. But I can't answer that question as to why somebody does not want to go into shelter. All I could tell you here, working with my colleagues across the state who provide shelter, we do a very, very good job. And our shelters are one in which they are welcoming and accommodating and really focused on solutions. And the solution is making sure that you are connected to the right support services. Luckily for Inspirica, we have a lot of our support services in-house, and also work on that housing plan. Because I think all of us who are in this field are committed to providing stability for all those we care for.
Do you ask clients about their immigration status?
Well, we have to gather a number of documentation in order to find them housing. So through that process, we'll get a sense of what their immigration. But to be honest with you, we don't really get a high percentage of those who are illegal immigrants. That's few and far between. But in order for us to help you with housing and other services, you do have to be honest about your legal status. Most times, if you're an illegal immigrant, there's pockets of ethnic communities that really, I don't want to say take care of their own, but they make sure they are, well cared for, and meaning that they're probably living with relatives or friends or individuals that they know, hopefully safely. But at the end of the day, we get very few illegal immigrants.
Denise Durham-Williams is the CEO of Inspirica. She is our guest today on Community Matters. You know, in addition to having a bed, which we all need, sleep is important, and we need to get out of the weather conditions when they're not favorable as well. What about food insecurity? Do you help them with food, or do you refer them to other places?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, here in Inspirica, we feed you. So in our women's shelter, we have an incredible, strong volunteer base that provides the meals for our women in shelter, and has been for years and years and years and years. And most people who know Inspirica say, I volunteered and I provided a meal for the women's shelter. For families, what we try to do here in Inspirica is try to provide as much as a environment that feels and looks like your home. And so the families get to cook for themselves. So we have full equipped kitchens, we have refrigerators, everybody has a time in which they could cook for their families. Pre-COVID, you can actually sit with your little ones, your children, with other families and have a real nice family meal. With COVID, it's a little bit more on a schedulized basis just to protect everyone and keep everyone safe. But, and then we have food banks here. We actually have our own food pantries here, definitely for our women. And then in our other homes or in some of our other houses, we maintain a food pantry. So at any point in time, people, individuals who are living on their own or in our congregate housing. The congregate housing, they cook for themselves as well. But if you do not have food, we always have stock of food here at Inspirica. And I just want to plug one thing, Jim, because we're talking a lot about Inspirica, but we do have two significant community programs during the Thanksgiving season. We have Harvest for Hope, and we're proud that this past Thanksgiving, with a number of community partners, we were able to provide turkeys, chickens, gift certificates, and all the fixings for a lovely Thanksgiving meal to about 1,000 residents here in Stamford. And then during the holiday time, during Christmas time, we partner with a number of other not-for-profits who are supporting the youth, and we provide toys for them. And it's called Holiday Wishes. And this past year, I believe this past season, we provided close to 4,000. We always make sure one is an educational. I'm a big proponent on reading. So we had books or educational toys and one fun toy for about 2,000 kids. So I just wanted to plug that.
At any given point in time, how many people are living in your shelters?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jim. Right now, we're at full capacity. I have at the family shelter 93 individuals, which includes, your mom or guardian with their children, and includes the little babies as well. We have a couple of babies here. And then at our women's shelter, we're almost at full capacity, which is about 20 women as well.
And how do you eventually get them out of the shelter and into another housing situation?
Well, I have an amazing team here. I really pride ourselves on the staff here at Inspirica. It starts with our case managers who works with every individual who comes into shelter. And then what we do immediately once we get you settled, we start to work with another team, which our support services team. And that team will work with you on a variety of things. So if you're a young mom, we have an early childhood parenting program. And that has been a huge success for us, especially for young moms. Listen, being in a shelter is stressful. Being in a shelter, it has an impact that we can't necessarily understand. So we want to make sure that our parents, our mom, our dad, or mom and dad together have the skill set to get through this period of time and emerge as a stronger parent. So that has been an incredibly strong program. And then we care for our youth. And so we have a youth center that after school, our school-age kids have some place to go where we're supporting them with homework, recreational, physical activity, and cultural activities. And that has been used because typically those children who are in shelters tend to not matriculate in school. And we're proud that all of our kids do. We have a good relationship. If you're coming from Stanford, we have a good relationship with the Stanford school system. And we also fight and advocate for our families. So if you came from Bridgeport into the shelter here in Inspirica and Stanford, we'll fight McKinney-Vento to make sure that transportation is provided for you to continue to stay in school in Bridgeport. And then we have a whole career development, what we call Jumpstart, where we do soft skills training, resume writing, interview skill sets, and also job placement. And in fact, this year alone, we've had 103 job placements just in the first 6 months of my fiscal year, which started last July, more so than we had all of last year. So when you say, what do? We do a lot. We're one of very few that has that full wraparound services. So at any point in time, we're preparing you to be stable. And then we have a whole team of housing specialists that goes out and based on their relationship with landlords, not only here in Lower Field County, but going all the way up to Bridgeport, have relationships where we are definitely trying to place you, as well as at some of the housing authorities, if there's room and if they have vacancies. So it is not a quick fix. It does take us a couple of months to ensure everyone has the right services and supported well to progress and move forward. And our sole goal is to make sure that when you're here, we're providing you everything you need to stabilize so that homelessness is one-time, brief, and non-recurring.
There's a strange kind of contradiction here. You know, you mentioned that, as we know, there's a shortage of workers these days. They're in demand. Companies are having trouble finding folks. They have to raise the minimum wage. I mean, you know, $15 to a little bit more, but it's still pretty low. And yet, many of the towns in Fairfield County are not huge fans of the idea of affordable housing in their town or city limits. What would you say to our viewers in Darien who say, I don't want people in affordable housing. I don't want those people living in my town. Let them live in Stamford or Norwalk or Bridgeport. Oh yeah, I'll hire them maybe for my jobs in Darien, or, you know, I'll hire them to clean my home, but I don't want them living in my town. Here's your chance to talk to folks in Darien who may have that feeling. What would you say?
I think sad. It's very sad. People are people. We all have the same goals in mind: to raise our children, have a good education, have them contribute to society. You're missing out on an incredible talent base. You can't judge people by the fact that they have maybe an economic challenge. They're smart, they're talented, they're skilled, and they add to the diversity and the breadth of what makes us so unique in the United States. If I go back to the roots of Inspirica, when we were helping immigrants, right? When we were helping immigrants, that probably is part of those immigrants that got help, probably moved up into Darien, right? And still contributed to the growth of your town. So you miss out on the richness of people and the richness of what they can contribute. And in
so
this
just because they're you go ahead.
Just one last thought on this.
Testify. You know, tell us. Give us the word.
Well, you know, it's interesting. COVID. we're in a pandemic. All right, we're trying to live with it. But COVID didn't seem to jump from one person to another. It didn't seem to want to say, hey, because you may be a person of color or you may be economically challenged, I'm going to get you. COVID got us all. And I would hope that COVID taught us a little bit about being empathetic and humanity. We're all in this together. And guess what? At the end of the day, who was at the stores where you needed to go? Who was there helping you? The essential worker. And the essential worker deserves the right to affordable housing, to good housing, to safe housing as anyone else.
So just because they're poor, and I put that in air quotes, doesn't mean they're bad people or dangerous or drug addicts or thieves, right?
Well, I'm not going to justify that, because all those labels that you just put out there, Jim, they come in all sizes, shapes, colors, race, and religion. So it's not one particular person or one particular race or one particular religion. All of that exists throughout the country in all sizes and shapes, right? And so my feeling is, think about the richness of your community when you have diversity, when you are including people, when you are equitable. It only makes for a richer community. And you'd be surprised where your town can go if you would embrace that. And we're not talking about, you know, when we talk about affordable housing nowadays, some of the product is so beautiful and so wonderful. If you saw Franklin Apartments, you would not even know that this was, you know, what I call housing for our essential workers, for our workforce development population here in Stamford.
If you really want to make a difference, putting money toward affordable housing is one of the great philanthropic things to do.
Today, we are cutting a ribbon and birthing a building truly designed to address the housing needs of low-income individuals and families.
This building is not a homeless shelter. We do not want our future tenants to have to bear the burden of living in a shelter ever again. This building is a home.
When we heard about 72 Franklin, we were really excited as case managers. The goal is to end this cycle of homelessness, and this is one stepping stone towards it.
Affordable housing, it's okay, affordable to who? And how much are they really making? And when we're talking about deeply affordable, we're talking about based on your income. We're talking about really, what can you financially afford?
We have a terrible misdistribution of wealth in this country, and it's hollowing out the middle class, and it's certainly affecting people below the middle class.
This is how we move forward. You don't want to create a cycle. Rent is astronomically high in Stamford and in Connecticut.
Unfortunately, the cost of living here is just so expensive, and it really just makes it easy for people that are working and maybe just not bringing home as much as other individuals in this area.
The cost of housing here is multiples more than it is in many other parts of the country, and that's not true of the incomes.
Living check to check is not something anyone wants to do. Everyone goes through struggles. I always tell my clients, there's no such thing as a problem. There's only solutions. And we're the ones that can solve them.
Stamford's a great city. We have lots of different ethnicities. We have people of many different kinds of income. And if you're a lower income person and you find yourself in Stamford, there are a lot of people with resources who are here and want to help.
There's going to be individuals who utilize this as a stepping stone. It's a place where they can now save because of what they're paying in rent.
They are able to release that breath of fresh air and say, hey, this is mine.
So it makes for a very, very rich building. And in fact, the building behind us is going to be market rate, and you can't tell the difference. And so I think people just need to be open-minded to what embracing diversity, including people, and being equitable really means.
Denise Durham-Williams, the CEO of Inspirica, our guest today on the program. And let's wrap up. I'm going to give you a chance, if we have caught people's attention to the work you do and how you perform this important mission. How do you pay for all of this? I mean, do you receive state grants? Are you looking for donations? How can people help you in this mission?
Yes, always. Always. The more money I have, the more I can serve, the more I can provide and extend our services. So please look us up in Inspirica Inc. in Connecticut. There's another Inspirica out there. And you can also go to www.inspiricact.org. I'll repeat that, www.inspiricact.org. We also have we have also opportunities to volunteer. We're COVID safe here. Clearly, we want you to be vaccinated, and we do require masks to protect everyone. But we have opportunities for you to give a little bit of yourself, prepare a meal. If you want to, we have a volunteer site, a fabulous volunteer team that will embrace you if you want to just come and give a little bit of your time. I call time, treasures, and talent. We love that here. And
we will put a slide at the end of the program here with all that website, telephone, address, contact information. But I want to thank our guest, Denise Durham-Williams. She's the CEO of Inspirica. I want to thank you very much for being with us on the program today.
Thank you, Jim. It was a real pleasure. Some tough
Thanks.
questions, but thank you anyway.
I'll take it as a compliment.
It was a compliment.
And I have to thank our faithful viewers, our faithful viewers, for watching another edition of Community Matters.